I have the great privilege today of speaking with one of Charleston's fabulous musician legends. This is Mr. Gino Castillo. Thank you, Gino, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You are a very familiar face in Charleston. Where are you from originally?
I was born in Ecuador.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was born in Quito, Ecuador.
And is that what inspired you, the sounds that you heard in music there?
Well, music, yes. Because in my house, it was a very musical house. But my grandfather was a connoisseur, like, he was like a big fan of the classicals. So that lunchtime, he just walked in, we all were waiting for him to have lunch. And he blasted the classicals. Like, blast. It was almost impossible to have a conversation. But we were happy about that. You know, it's like he just walked in and one day will be like Beethoven and one day will be Bach, Chopin, whatever his mood was. And so that was one of the biggest influences that I had. My grandma used to clean the house, listening to music and singing.
Oh.
And my biggest memory is like of her doing her chores, singing along with the little cassette player that she had there with Cuban boleros. That's a big memory that I have.
So both of your grandparents are big influencers musically
Yes,
for you.
yes.
So you were influenced by your family. You have spread the music to your family. What brought you to Charleston? How long have you been part of the scene here?
I moved on to Charleston in 2010.
Okay.
From New York. I was in New York first, but I did a lot before I went. I was a kid in Ecuador, then I moved to Cuba, and I kind of grew up in Cuba. Then I moved back to Ecuador here, and Cuba is what gave me the music that I play. You know, it's like I was raised musically as a Cuban.
Mm-hmm. So
in my house, we used to listen to classical music and Cuban boleros. And then I moved to Cuba and everything was Cuban music.
And that inspired your Gino Castillo and the
changed
Cuban Cowboys.
Yeah,
That's where
that changed my life.
That's amazing.
My trip to Cuba, it was very long.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the period of time when you are a teenager changing. And without knowing, suddenly I was one more Cuban.
And music has really opened a lot of doors for you. You have your own musical group. Tell us about some of the highlights of your musical career.
Well, I was in Ecuador. I was 9 years being a top percussionist for pop music. But at some point, I thought that I want to do my stuff. So I started a jazz band, a Latin jazz band, with the teachers. Ecuador, Quito has one of the three branches the Berklee College of Music has. And I was teaching there. So I started a band with all the teachers. And so it was a fantastic band. But everybody was so busy that it was so hard to keep it going. But we did a couple albums and then I moved to New York. And then in New York, I played with a lot of different great musicians. You know, luckily New York is full of big names in the Latin world.
Right.
And then I moved to Charleston, which was at the beginning a mistake. Now I'm really grateful that happened. So, you know, like people said, everything happens for a reason. Right. When I was here in Charleston, I thought like, well, my career can end here. Because I didn't know anybody.
Right.
I was living in Somerville without a car. Because in New York, you don't need a car.
Right.
I never thought of buying a car or anything. And then I was like there. And suddenly I was cleaning windows for a company because that was the only thing that I could do. So a friend of mine, her family lent me some money to buy an old car, and I bought a little old car, and I was cleaning windows in that car, and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? And I was doing so well in Ecuador. I was the top percussionist in the recording world in Ecuador, and then I moved to New York, and I was doing great. I was, you know, I was working with great people in a good path. Mm-hmm. And suddenly I'm here in Charleston where I don't know anybody.
So what changed for you after you were here and you're thinking, oh no, this is a mistake, I should be back in New York or Ecuador? What changed?
Changed that I met Jack McRae.
Oh. Oh. For those of you who don't know, Jack McCrae is one of the co-founders of Charleston Jazz and a great advocate for music and particularly jazz.
Yeah. I went online to find musicians in Charleston, and I found this percussion player, and he sent me a message back saying that his band is going on tour and they need a conga player. If I want it, he's gonna put me in touch with them. So I was super excited. That guy was Steven Sandifer, and the band was Danger Muffin. So it's like Danger Muffin were going on tour, and Steven Sandifer gave me his spot with this now Charleston Latin Jazz Collective.
That's incredible. I think some people forget, the impact of just opening a door for another musician. Jack himself, he opened so many doors. Almost everyone I talked to in the jazz scene said, oh, Jack McCrae introduced me to this person, or helped me find a band, or open this door. And, here he, long after he's gone, we're still, running this organization that he helped found. And so I feel like the impact he's had has been so
big.
amazing.
He was the one who started, and then I became a really good friend with Quentin and Charlton.
I'm so touched by your story, because you are saying these names that are familiar to all of us and what they meant to you. And I just feel like for the people that support Charleston Jazz, it's important for them to hear this, that these are stories they may not know happening behind the scenes. Nobody in town can mention Latin jazz without mentioning your name. And so you have really established yourself as a leader in the Latin jazz community. So we are going to feature you with the Charleston Jazz Orchestra, which is one of our favorite things to do. One of our most popular collaborations is when we put you on the billing. And we have this CHA-CHA Charleston show. And I remember sitting at home during COVID, and this video popped up, and almost everybody that I know in the music scene in Charleston was popping up on this video, CHA-CHA Charleston. So we named our show CHA-CHA Charleston, but do you want to tell everyone about the video, about the song, how that came about?
Actually I wrote that song right after I felt that Charleston was home 10 years ago. Let me tell you, the Charleston music scene is the best in the world. It's the amount of love, it's unbelievable. And I get emotional because I have felt that in my life recently. And one day I was just like trying to say something, I don't even remember how, and I was like, I used to joke with my kids all the time in the car when I was driving them home, making up songs, silly songs. I always told them, like, I'm gonna record this, I'm gonna be famous, and then, no, Dad, please don't do that, because it was the most silly tunes that I used to sing. But one day I was like, Baila Cha-Cha Charleston, and they were like, no, Dad, please don't do that, something like that. And then I got home and I started to put it together, and I wrote a song about Charleston, and I was basically part of my story when in the pandemic, almost at the end of the pandemic. I was like, we have to do something. One day, I have no idea how it came to my mind, and I sent a message to Charlton. Dude, I want to do this. You want to do it? Let's do it.
I walk on King Street and feel like 30's here. I hear jazz in the market, rock and roll across the street.
Dancing salsa in his bay, now I will take the way. Be my blessing is the rapper now. Come with me.
I wrote this song for Charleston.
And you probably weren't thinking at the time that CHA-CHA Charleston would inspire a Charleston Jazz Orchestra concert of the same title. So if anyone wants to see this song, CHA-CHA Charleston, in the show coming up September 14th at the Charleston Music Hall, there's two shows, a 5 o'clock and an 8 o'clock show. Tickets for these shows with Gino go really fast, so you'll want to head over to the ticket page on charlestonjazz.com and reserve your spot. We also have a special guest joining Gino and the Jazz Orchestra on stage. Tell the world who Yusa is.
Yusa is one of my best friends, first of all. She's a beautiful heart. but she's like an outstanding musician. Her talents can go to the moon and back and overwhelm you with all the sensations you want to feel when she plays music. When she plays piano, when she plays guitar, when she plays bass, when she sings with her songs. It's all about an art form. Yusa is an art form. But also Yusa is one of the most important musicians that Cuba has in the last 30 years.
Wow.
She was the first female to be graduated in college with the title of Cuban Tres player.
Wow.
So that instrument that she plays, it's a Cuban Tres. She was the first one to graduate with that, and she's one of the best players in the world. Also, her songwriting is like incredible, and also, but she's also pretty famous in several parts of the world. You know, in Cuba, she's superstar. In Argentina, is superstar. In Brazil, she's superstar. In Europe, she just was in Japan and tour because her music is very well known in all these places. So it's a big deal that we can have her playing again with us.
So Gino, just in kind of closing, this has been a crazy year for you as a musician.
Yeah.
You have shared with us some of the things that you've dealt with as a musician, and I think your heart is to encourage other people. So tell us a little bit about the recent challenges that you've had and how you've kept going as a musician.
Well, last year in September, I went to do a checkup to measure my sugar. I have diabetes, so I do every 3 months, and some levels were wacky, not on the sugar side. So we repeat several tests in a couple of weeks, and the doctor sent me to the oncologist. He called me, and he told me that I need to be in the hospital right away.
Oh my goodness.
So that Saturday, I got into the hospital, and I didn't left for 3 months. I had leukemia. All that new journey started with my life. That it's been. People sometimes look at me with a weird face when I say this, but I'm grateful.
Really?
Yeah. I have learned so much.
In what way? What would you say?
About myself, about life. And as I said before, that situation really gave me the opportunity to learn what is Charleston. I'm so grateful. Charleston is my home. And people in Charleston made me feel that. I really want to thank everybody. And I'm happy. These are tears of joy because I'm learning that life is this. My goal in life now is just being happy. Yeah. And share that happiness with the world. I used to be that guy who wants to play perfect, even if I never played perfect, but very technical in every aspect. But now I think that technicality has to be part of your performance, but you never can take your soul out of the equation.
Well, thank you so much for chatting.
Thank you for having me.
We're just so honored that you're part of our Charleston Jazz community, and really appreciate your story.
Oh no, completely honest. The honor is mine.